Hello everyone, it's Unit 4, Lesson 4, and we go with grammar, taking out which, who, in that. Well, I don't know, it's supposed to be meant by taking out, because usually you just add it, you don't take it out, so let's just see what's gonna go here. As you can see in this page, there are two parts, part 1 and 2, and both of them are talking about some kind of conjunction word, let's say. Which, who, in that is subjects, and here is objects. Well, maybe it's meant that we want to use it as a subject in terms of subject, and maybe we want to use it in terms of object. As you know, let me just try to remind you back here. Every sentence has got its own structure and parts. So it has a subject, and then Mr. Verb, and then Mrs. Object again. Doesn't matter, Mr. or Mrs. just for fun. But when it comes to using who and which, in that who in which are question words, so let's how we can use them here as in terms of sentence. Somebody says here, do you remember these sentences? There are several courses which are going on here at the same time. Those are the trainees who study in this building. So in these sentences, which and who are subjects, for example, which are going on here at the same time, who study in this building. So these two sentences pretty much are trying to tell you how to use which and who in terms of sentence, not as a question word. And as you can see here, when it comes to a question, you're going to use the question word, and then you're not going to actually use the same order as subject verb. You're going to use verb and then subject. So it's just going to be reversed the other way around. So how do you know actually what's happening? Let's see here. Now with which here in this box, and then you can check there is the verb straight away after it, and then there is the subject. And the same thing goes here, who study in this building, who is the question word, and then study is a verb, and then there's the rest of the sentence which tells you something else. So it's not the order that it goes as a subject and a verb. Because what's happening here, first it's a sentence, not a question. Second, actually it's used in the position of the question word as if it was a subject. So you no longer actually get a subject, you just get a continuation for the sentence. So why are we learning this? Let's just get through it. We can take out which and who. If we change the verbs, they become verb plus ing. The same is true for that. What's that supposed to mean? Okay, let's just try to find out. There are several courses going on here at the same time. Those are the trainees studying the building. Okay, so the difference between these two sentences and those on the top is the fact that you've got which and who used here when it's not used here. Sorry, when they're not used here, and I mean in the second box. And the difference goes is if you actually try to remove it out, it doesn't really make much difference in this sentence. You can still just use it the same way, but you just need to make some changes. For example, those are the trainees who study in the building. Those are the trainees studying in this building. You're going to only do this. Let me just tell what you're going to do. If you want to remove who, you're just going to add ing to the verb, and if you're going to add remove which, you're going to change position of the verb. For example, as you can see in this sentence, no, sorry, you don't have to do anything. Like there are several courses going on here, which are going on here. You're going to only remove the verb to be, which is the are in this case, which is the are. Okay. Now, what is the actual benefit from using who, which, and that? Well, basically, maybe you're trying to connect these two clauses or two parts of the sentences you might know as part of a sentence. For example, there are several courses. Okay, that's one sentence. And then there's another sentence going as the courses are going on here. At the same time. So what you actually want to do with two sentences that are available for you is to kind of put a join to both of them without having to still have to write them like two sentences as a two separate sentences, because it just doesn't make sense when you say there are several courses. The courses are going on here at the same time. You're just repeating the courses word twice, and you're actually using one very short sentence and another one that's reasonable. So you actually need to join them. So you're going to use who, or you're going to use which, or you're going to use that. And if you're going to talk about people, you're going to actually use who. And if you're going to use which, you're going to talk about things mostly. And if you're going to use that, you're going to talk about people or things at the same time. It doesn't really matter. So all of these three words do are just kind of connectors, and you can use them as a subject, as we said here in this example, and you can actually use them as objects. So let's just take a look at how it works. Cereals are a family of plants which we use for food, and you need about 40 calories a day for every kilo that you weigh. So, what is that supposed to be? What's the difference between this one and let's see this one in the box? There are a family of plants we use for food. So we just put here which, and actually two sentences. We use for food. Cereals are a family of plants. So two parts of the sentence, two sentences were connected in one sentence. Whether you add which or not, they are still connected in one sentence. So you could just remove which, and you don't really have to worry about adding or removing anything. But why is it different here than those on the top where you have to remove the R or just add an ing? Well, let me just take a look at the other example and then I'll tell you. You need about 40 calories a day for every kilo that you weigh. You need about 40 calories a day for each kilo you weigh. Every and each are just not really much of difference here, but the difference goes in adding that or just removing it. As you can notice here, we didn't really change anything in the sentence. You weigh is just kind of the same order. You get a subject and then you get a verb. So as you can see here with which, we got we use, it's just a subject and a verb usage, and we didn't have to actually change the order to make it into a question form, and we didn't even have to add another additional ing form verb or so on. So that is the reason why we think of it as an object, because we don't actually have to change the form of the sentence afterwards. But in the first part where we used it as a subject, as you can see here, there are several courses. Okay, that's a sentence that can stand on its own, but which are going on here at the same time is not a full sentence that can stand on its own. For example, those are the trainees who study in the building. Even if you remove who, you cannot just say studying in the building is like a separate sentence or a separate clause. It's actually in necessity to get connected to another clause, which is those are the trees. So basically, if this sentence or what comes after which, who, in that cannot stand alone, then it's actually in a subject form, in a subject position. But if what comes after which, who, and that can be separated as a sentence, as a sentence, as a standalone sentence, like we use for food. We use it for food, for example. Every kilo you weigh, that's another sentence that can stand alone. So basically, you can say, well, that's an object position. Now, in these sentences, which and who are objects, like which and that, we and you, or in terms of subjects, and we use for food as a verb. So you got a subject and you got a verb, and then you get this one coming as an object term. And so you can find out what position it's actually representing. Now, if it's representing an object position and you want to remove them as which and who in that, you do not have to change anything at all. Just keep it the same. So someone might be asking, okay, is there any other indicator to know if it's a subject or an object? Yes, there is actually. If you try to think about it for a second, for those who don't want markups and just want to think about it instead of just finding clues, you need about 40 calories a day for every kilo that you weigh. Well, that you weigh, what is it that you weigh? It's actually a kilo, every kilo or each kilo. So actually, if you think about it this way, well, are you describing an object here, or are you describing or talking about what you weigh in terms of a subject? Look at the sentence. You need about 40 kilos a day for every kilo that you weigh. Let me write it here. You need about 40 kilos a day for, every kilo you weigh. So let's just try to separate it here. Okay. Now think about it in different terms, as in going. Okay, you is just merely a subject, okay, and need is simply a verb. Every about 40 kilo a day for, and so let's say this is the object clause, blah 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 blah, and then you got that, and then you got the rest of it. So what is actually happening here is that you're trying to describe something that you're weighing, which is the kilograms, which is actually the entire object form here. So what you're describing here is more of an object in terms of meaning rather than the subject. I don't know why I'm just lapsing here. Okay, so but in terms of the other sentence here on the top, as you can see, there are several courses. The courses are going here, which are going here at the same time. Okay, let's just try to make a comparison. Let me check it out here for you. Okay, there are, as you can see, subject, and then several courses, and then you go which are. Okay, so first you can say this is the subject. And what is a subject? There are, I don't know what's a subject. So it's kind of an indication here, and then you get a verb, and then there is the actual subject, several courses. And you're actually describing it with which, and then you're using a verb as a or going on, and then you're just using the rest of the sentence. So what's happening here, as you can notice, is just trying to use something in terms of the subject, because the only what's before which in the sentence is merely subject. You don't have an object, okay? So what you're actually doing is describing the subject. That is why in the first box here, I mean, in your book, they talked about how we can use which, who in terms of subject, and how you can use it in terms of object is in the second example, as you can see here, because what you're actually describing here is the object, and what you're describing here is the subject. So that is merely the second way to make a differentiation. It's actually by separating the word in the subject, verb, and object form, and then trying to see what comes after that which in the words, and try to find out, what am I describing here? Am I describing or talking about a subject? Am I focusing on the object? And that's when it functions as the object or the subject. Well, I'm going to actually stop here, or maybe we'll continue. Actually, I'll stop here and we'll finish with you next time. So have a good day.